Hey guys, so today I had the insight that suffering is a projection and it fits so many puzzle pieces together and it fits into our lives in so many ways. So I'm going to try to explain as many ways as I can and kind of like keep that phrase running through your head and make the intention to see how suffering is a projection, and like the Abraham Hicks tip of pay attention to how you feel. When you're suffering, ask yourself, what am I projecting? What am I creating? What beliefs are behind this that are creating this suffering? So, usually, the belief of the self and us and other and future and past is what's being projected there in suffering. And I wanted to give this example because this is the biggest experience that fully illustrates the power of this. And so my grandmother, the night she passed away, I sent her Tonglen, which is a Buddhist practice of breathing in suffering and breathing out peace. And as I did, it bounced back, and it was completely clear to me that it was my suffering. It was not her suffering, that I was projecting the suffering onto her. She was completely okay, and she passed away an hour later. The other crazy thing I had happen that leading up to that was taking my son to the ER, and there was this old man who sat in the waiting room. And everyone in the waiting room was suffering, either like mother with child like me or someone waiting to see someone sick and waiting to see, except this man. And he just exuded this like peace and being, and I was like freaking out until like I started noticing him, and I recognized it, and it just was this strange experience. And soon I became calm, and all of a sudden my son's abdominal pain went away while we were still sitting there. And then he was still seen, and like hours later, as I was walking out, this old man was still sitting there, and he just like completely aware of everything, not doing anything. And I just waved at him, and he waved back at me. And his presence of there, being completely unconcerned and not feeling the suffering of anyone else, was like holding this presence. And I understood it, and I understand now how healing occurs. And it's not, that a doctor cannot heal a patient if he feels the pain of them. And the same way, when somebody is suffering psychologically or emotionally, we cannot go there with them. We cannot join them in that and heal. We have to be the vibration of wholeness. We have to be the vibration of love. We have to be our very selves. We have to be the power. Their power is now. And anything else, all suffering, is projection of past and future. There's pain, there's a vibration of pain, and that doesn't mean to deny that, and it doesn't mean to deny or be psychopathic. It's allowing love fully, and allowing healing, and caring about the healing of other people, and knowing that there is no one and no action who can do it, but that it is done on its own. It is unfolding on its own completely. And so when you see people suffering for a cause, it helps to intellectually understand what they're doing there, what they're projecting. So on the Abraham Hicks emotional scale, and she explained this, and it kind of blew me away, and ask and it is given. She said that hopelessness and despair and depression it's moving up on the emotional scale from those emotions, those vibrations, whatever you want to call it, to be angry and to blame somebody, because at least then there's a reason for it, and it's a reach for feeling better. And when you know that it's a reach for feeling better, you don't have to stay there so long. And when you know that it's a reach for feeling better, You don't have to demonize people who are angry, because as a society, someone who's angry is a threat to us. And so we are programmed to dislike that. We'd rather them just go back to being completely depressed, because what do we care? And so people who are angry are projecting out that suffering onto something else. They're trying to rid themselves of it, but haven't yet understood what it is that they're projecting it onto somebody else. And so when you feel something, and to be completely honest and for real here, one of the ways in spiritual people this comes out is seeing someone who presents themselves as enlightened and the finished package and completely confident and everything, and we're like, bullshit, and you call someone out on that. And people even call me out on my videos, even though I'm just like, I don't claim to be finished, and I don't believe there's ever a finish, and nor would I want there to be. But we're projecting our desire for enlightenment onto them, and a desire for it to be finished. And so when we turn enlightenment into projection itself, you know by how it feels. You know you're projecting something that's not real, something that is your power right now into the future. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that I don't deny that there are ways to make a better world, and that there are realizations that permanently change the illusion of a human being, and that I don't strive for those myself. But at the same time, I know how this story is unfolding. And I know that it's a projection itself, and I know the purpose of this projection is love and beauty and the vibrations from which it came. That is truth. Those are the true things. When beauty is reflected, you could say it's an illusion, but that beauty, that love, that resonance is truth itself. You can tell truth by how it feels. And so whenever you get involved in your own suffering and somebody else's suffering, know it to be projection, and know that even in the knowing it to be projection and beating yourself up is again another projection. So I can't remember if there's anything else I wanted to say. So I don't know if I went into very much of solipsism and how this is different from being a psychopath, because that's what it feels when you're a really empathetic person. And that's how I was. Like, I felt embarrassment, and I felt like I was inconveniencing people to such a level that I didn't want to be around people. It was so extreme to me. I made such extreme projections on people. But there's also a gift within that when you're in tune with people and you have this sort of propensity for love for them, if you can focus on that can turn into that desire for healing, or that connection itself with people, which is the healing, is the connection in itself, that there's no one doing it, but it seems to come through with people. And so that's how it was for me, and it meant extreme suffering for me. So a psychopath would be the complete opposite, where they take and cut themselves off from everybody else and see it as an ideal, and just naturally just don't feel with other people. And this is feeling, but knowing the true feeling and bringing it back to the true feeling without projecting a whole lot of other things onto it. And so it takes a lot of understanding what a thought is and what you are and what somebody else is for this to not sound like some sort of evil kind of thing, for the mind to not wrap it up and misunderstand it, which is why the present moment is such a great thing to understand, and just like bringing it back and bringing it back to the breath. But it helps to, when you notice you're suffering, to dissect situations and see what was assumed there and what sort of old belief and assumption was there to back that up, to give that suffering any sort of basis, and to see through it. So that's all for today, guys. Thanks for listening, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Love you guys. Bye.